Hey guys, Adrian Shepherd here, author of I Succeed and creator of ISucceedBook.com. And today I'm coming to you live from Osaka, Japan. Now I'd like to thank everyone on the line today who's here because this is my first ever webinar. So to be honest, I'm a little bit nervous simply because I'm not familiar with the technology and I'm hoping everything will go smoothly. However, I'm super excited about being able to share with you some fabulous insights from a book that I consider one of the best books ever written on the topic of success. The title, as you can see on the screen here, is He Can Who Thinks He Can, written by Orison Swett Marden. Now, before I get into the thick of things, I'd like to tell you a little bit about how I came across this book. So, a few years back, a friend of mine and I decided to go into business together. And at first, it seemed to be going well. But then, the wheels fell off. And it became evident to me, at least, that we were in trouble. We weren't equipped to handle the situation we were in, and we needed help. So, I put on my thinking cap and thought, well, what am I going to do? Now, I didn't have a mentor at the time that I could have turned to ask for help and guidance. So, that was out. Then I thought about it and I realized, well, okay, I might not know anybody who's been where I am, but I'm sure there are a lot of books out there that can help me. So I did some research and I decided to start with some big names in the industry, such as Robert Kiyosaki and Tony Robbins. And what I found was almost life-changing. And I thought, wow, this is really good stuff. So I took it and applied it to my business and my personal life, and I realized, wow, things are changing. Yeah, I'm heading in the right direction. I'm getting back on course. And I thought, well, if I've gotten so much out of these books, maybe I should read more. And at the time, of course, I was running a small business, so you need to know how to sell. So I looked into what books there were on selling. And I came across a few names. One name was Tom Hopkins, and another name was Jeffrey Gitomer. Now, you may not know Jeffrey Gitomer, but he's one of the top sales trainers in America and has written numerous books on the topic of sales. And I picked up a few that were easy to read. I found them really valuable. But a few things that I remember from the book were a book that he introduced and a quote that he had. And the quote you can see here on the screen is, if you want to get a new idea, read a book that's over 50 years old. Now, I can't remember the exact quote. I couldn't find it for today's webinar, but that's pretty much the gist of it. Now, when I heard that, I'll be honest with you, I thought, you gotta be kidding me. Seriously? I mean, I'm the kind of guy who likes the newest and latest and the coolest stuff. I didn't like reading to begin with. And now you're asking me to read a book that's over 50 years old because you'll get a quote-unquote new idea? Are you kidding me? I was like, no way. But I couldn't get that quote out of my mind. And eventually, I decided, well, maybe it's... okay, I'll give it a shot. Because he introduced another book, the He Can Who Thinks He Can book, later on. And I thought, okay, since he says that it's an absolute must-read, I'll give it a shot. What the heck, one time, and if it's a bust, I'm never going to follow this idea again. Screw that, I'm going to get the latest books. So, I spent the money, and it was quite expensive. It's about $30 for a new book. That's quite expensive. I mean, and the book was written 100 years ago, so I don't know many people who want to spend $30 on a book that old. Well, I started reading this book, and I was absolutely blown away by it. Because I realized that nothing's changed. What worked before will work now. Yeah, sure, a few ideas in the books are dated. They talk about the steam engine and carriages and things like that. So it was kind of a blast from the past. But when I read it, if I hadn't read those words and I've just changed them for combustion engine or airplanes, I wouldn't have known this book was written that many years ago. That's how timeless this book is. It's truly an amazing book, and I believe one that deserves a place in everyone's success library. If you're a serious student, after you've finished this webinar, go out and get this book because it's worth it. So anyway, that's a little background on the book, and I think you're going to get a lot out of this webinar because these quotes that I'm about to share with you and my comments, I think, will help you see the world anew, because that's what it did for me. So let's get started. I'm going to read the quote first, and then I'm going to give you my comments on it afterwards. What is it that changes things? Wishing or hustling? Dreaming or working? Can you expect them to change while you merely sit down and wish them to change? How long would it take you to build a house sitting on the foundation and wishing that it would go up? Wishing does not amount to anything unless it is backed by endeavor, determination, and grit. Okay, now why did I include this quote? Quite simply, a lot of people have fallen for what I like to call the secret scam. Now, don't get me wrong, I like the book The Secret. It's a great book, and it's another book you should have in your library. However, there's one small problem with it. It only talks about dreaming and wishing. I'm all for that. Dream big, believe that things are going to get better. But that's no excuse for not taking action. Action is where the miracles take place. That's where things become reality. They get them out of your head. What you believe and what you dream become real. You can touch them. Until you work on them, they just are a figment of your imagination. Too many people are out there hoping and waiting and dreaming for what they want instead of going out and getting it. Now, I'm not saying that you should just go get out there right now and start doing something. No, not at all. In fact, if you don't know what you want and you don't have a plan with which to build what you want, it's not going to go anywhere. You're just going to be doing stuff. You don't want to be doing stuff. You want to be doing something that builds towards your future. Look at me. I'm doing this webinar. Why? Because I want to build a better tomorrow for myself. Now, I'm sharing this information with you because I like helping people. But it helps me just as much as it helps you. Number one, it helps me because I have to prepare this. So I have to think about what I'm going to say. But it's more than just that. Because I review what I read in this book, so I'm reading it a second time. You're hearing this for the first time. For me, it's the second or third time. So it's going deeper down into my subconscious. I'm really getting more out of the book. And last but not least, my job is to build an education center, a site with lots of fabulous information. Well, there's no way that's going to happen if I just sit there and wait to create it. No, I've got to go out there and make it happen. So here I am making a product. I'm going to share it for free, and in the future also bundle it together and sell it as a kit. So that's the first quote on my list, and I hope that you're not just waiting for things to happen. Next, whatever you do in life, make any sacrifice necessary to keep in an ambition-arousing atmosphere, an environment that will stimulate you to self-development. Keep close to people who understand you, who believe in you, who will help you discover yourself and encourage you to make the most of yourself. Stick to those who are trying to do something and to be somebody in the world. People of high aims, lofty ambition. Well, if you've had a chance to read my book, you'll know that chapter 2 of my book was devoted to people. Because I believe in the concept of Birds of a feather flock together. It happens at school, it happens in business, it happens in life. Successful people don't like to hang around losers. You might respect people in other groups, but you like to spend time with people that you believe in and who understand you, and that means people in your group. So you've got to be careful about the people you spend time with, because the people who you're with can either pull you up to greatness or hold you back from it. In many ways, people can be an anchor. They can stop you from getting where you want to go. I've seen it happen. I've seen husbands and wives and boyfriends and girlfriends prevent the people that they love the most from doing something great simply because they were afraid, or they didn't think it was a good idea, or they thought they should play it safe. Now, I'm not telling you to cut off all your friends right now. Some people out there, some people in the self-development industry will say cut ties with people who are holding you back. I don't believe that. I mean, we need our friends. And sometimes our friends may not be the people who are there to push us forward. However, they are our friends, and we've known them for many years. You don't want to just cut them out. However, you might want to limit your exposure to them. You might not want to meet them every day. You might want to meet them every week or every month. You want to get new friends. That's really what I want to say here. And by getting new friends, you will feel change come. You'll be amazed how much you will learn because of associating with different people. I used to go to a rock climbing gym. And at the time, I remember a guy who had just started, but he hung around with some of the best climbers in the gym. Well, guess what? In a few months, he was a pretty dang good climber in his own right. Why did that happen? Do you think it would just magically happen? Do you think it was just his hard work? Sure, he put in the effort. That's what I talked about in the first quote. But having the people around him that could guide him to get him on the fast track to success is really what the combination of the two that really paid off big. So whatever it is you want, start making friends with those kind of people. If you want to be good at photography, start to get to know some photographers. Write to some people online that you know that they're doing a blog on photography, or buy some of their programs and see if you can listen to their webinars. Do anything you can to be near them, attend their seminars, whatever. But get to know them. Try reaching out to them. And within a short period of time, you'll be surprised how much you'll have changed. I believe it's honestly one of the fastest ways to achieve whatever it is you want. And that is just get around people who do what you want. I know young people who have acquired a better education, a finer culture, through the habit of observation, or of carrying a book in the pocket to read at odd moments, or by taking courses in correspondence schools, than many who have gone through college. The world is a great university. Some people are always at school, always storing up precious bits of knowledge. Everything has a lesson for them. Now, if you've been reading my blog or have my book, you'll know that I wasn't always into personal development. I was a teacher for most of my life. So I'm big into education. I still am. It's just a different form of education these days. But this is something I've been thinking about for many, many years nowadays. The concept of a college education. Is it really worth it? It's a tough question to ask because I believe in education. I'm an educator. I think people should study. But I kind of believe that nowadays, unless you want to be a doctor or a scientist, that college just really isn't cost efficient anymore. It's outpriced itself. It's so expensive and people go into incredible debt just to get a college degree. Well, is that really the best use of all that money? I mean, nowadays we have access to tons of information thanks to the internet. Tons of free programs on YouTube. And lots of paid programs too, but they won't cost $100,000 or $200,000. You can get a world-class training on sales or marketing for a few $1,000s. Why would you pay $100,000 or $200,000 for training at one of these big campuses for exactly the same thing? Maybe not even as good. I know that sounds harsh to say, and I'm not trying to insult any teachers or professors out there, but you want to learn from the best. A lot of professors in college, for example, if they're teaching management, use books by Drucker. You don't have to go to university to get those books. You can get them on Amazon. You know, we're no longer constrained by our surroundings. We can get books from halfway across the world. We can take lectures from almost anywhere. You can get stuff on Udemy. I don't know if you've ever heard of that site. Or just research top marketers or salesmen and look for their online programs. You'll be surprised what's out there if you really take a look. But a college degree doesn't guarantee you success anymore. It once did, I think, when information was hard to get. You see, colleges could gather information, gather great minds. Nowadays, that's not difficult. It's so easy nowadays. And it says here, the world is a great university. Yes, it is. We can learn so much from just observing what is going on in our world. Now you have to remember that this quote was written back in 1908. This is a time when college basically guaranteed your future. You got a college degree, you had a job for life. And even back then he said that there was no guarantee that a college would give you a better education. You can simply learn it all through study yourself. And now it's easier than ever before for us to do that, thanks to the internet. Okay, so moving on to my next quote. Very few people ever learn how to use their eyes. They go through the world with a superficial glance at things. Their eye pictures are so faint and so dim that details are lost, and no strong impression is made on the mind. Yet the eye was intended for a great educator. The brain is a prisoner, never getting out to the outside world. It depends upon its 5 or 6 servants, the senses, to bring it material, and the larger part of it comes through the eye. The man who has learned the art of seeing things looks with his brain. Okay, so I included this quote simply to say that education does not stop once we graduate from university. Our eyes should always be open. Our ears should always be open for new and useful information. Today's knowledge is obsolete in 2 years. So that means if you go to college and you study computers, by the time you graduate, the first 2 years of what you learned has become obsolete. So it's up to us to constantly feed ourselves good information and ideas. We can only do that if we're open to the idea that we have to keep learning. Most people think when we graduate, I'm never gonna read a book again. I'm done. I'm finished with this. I've had enough. Now I'm just gonna work. Well, newsflash here, guys. You will be obsolete in a very short period of time unless you keep learning. Especially in the tech industry. You have to keep learning. You don't want to fall behind. Things are just moving so fast these days. So always be learning. Never stop. And the best learning, in my opinion, does not come from a classroom. It comes from being out there in the real world and doing things and seeing what happens. Almost like trial and error, but it doesn't have to be trial and error anymore because we take what we learn from the books and the audio programs and the DVDs and the seminars and the trainings, and we take that and we take it out into the real world and we go, let's try this stuff. Some of it might not work for your particular case, but most of it will. Some people say, well, This guy doesn't understand what he's talking about because this is Japan. It won't work in Japan. Yeah, I get it. Not exactly in this manner, but the concepts will work just like the concepts in this book written 100 years ago still work. Why is that? Because we haven't changed. It doesn't make a difference if it was 100 years ago or today, if you're black or if you're white, if you're in Russia or China. I don't care where you are in the world, what color skin you have, what type of education you have. We are all humans. It has not changed. It will not change. We have our needs and desires and are not going to change despite what goes on out there in the world. So, get learning, get studying, and then start using what you learn. I hope that some of the ideas that I share with you today might get you to take action. That's what I want out of this webinar, not for you to just go, some cool ideas. Thanks a lot, Adrian. I appreciate it. No. I don't want that. I want you to go, gosh, I never thought about that before. That's so true. I'm going to change. That's what makes me excited. Next, develop your judgment early and exercise caution until it becomes reliable. Your judgment is your best friend. Your common sense is your great life partner. One thing I know about successful people is that they've learned to trust their gut. They're not always right, but they're willing to take a chance. And they know when something feels right and when something doesn't feel right. It's not easy, and I don't know how to teach you or teach your common sense to become heightened. But what I can say is a few pieces of advice that may pay off. Number one, if it's too good to be true, it usually is. You may have heard this quote. You've probably heard this quote. I hope you've heard this quote. If you haven't, please remember this. Because there are thousands of companies, people, businesses out there that promise wonderful results with little work and various amounts of investment that turn out to be nothing more than a scam. Recently, I heard about this green coffee extract, and Dr. Oz was talking about how this is this great new creation in medicine, and it will really help revolutionize the dieting in it. Well, talk about pulling on people's heartstrings. Dieting easily. Oh, yeah. Hundreds of thousands of people, probably bought this extract. And guess what? He was brought before Congress, and basically he had to admit that, no, it doesn't really work. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Now, I'll be honest with you. My mother asked me, hey, Adrian, could you pick up some of these green coffee extract for me? Because I want to try it, because I've heard it's, the best thing for dieting. Basically because Dr. Oz had said it was good. Well, I decided to check it out before I bought any. And I came across the show when he introduced how wonderful this new product was. Well, in it, he said that people who took the extract were on one side of the room and people on the other side of the room took a placebo. But the results were quite amazing because the people in the green coffee extract lost, on average, 2.3%. Whereas the people in the placebo group lost 1.7%. And I was like, so you mean that the only difference between taking a sugar tablet and this super new great invention was like 0.6%? That's it. That's the huge difference that people have to go out and spend all this money on? Are you kidding me? And it was funny because simply because they believed that they were taking medicine, or diet supplement, I should say, that they started to lose weight. So really, it's got nothing to do with medicine, really. It's just that they believed that they could lose weight, or they were losing weight. Well, let me tell you the best way to think that you're losing weight. Dieting. Number two, exercise. Number 3, that's it. That's it. Those are the only 2 ways to really lose weight. Dieting, and that's various forms. You can change what you eat, change the portions, change the ingredients. There's numerous ways you can lose weight within dieting. And exercise, and there's lots of ways you can exercise. Yoga, jogging, swimming, running. It doesn't really make much difference, but you gotta do something. If you jog around the block and you eat, for example, in Japan, let's say half a bowl of rice instead of a full bowl of rice, guess what? You're gonna lose a little weight. You're gonna lose a little weight. And guess what? Not only that, but you'll feel better too, because your health will be improved. Taking supplements and doing nothing will not really change you for the most part. Okay? Now, I'm not saying diet supplements don't help. I'm saying that they alone will not really be enough to make much of a difference, because it's really about your diet habits, your eating habits, and your exercise habits. That's what makes the most difference. Okay? But my point here is that you've got to learn to trust yourself, and you've got to think a little bit logically. I've heard financial advisors promise X amount of growth. Well, in today's world, it's almost impossible for that. Well, guess what? They probably can't achieve what they're saying. I found it out firsthand. So, learn to trust yourself. And the other piece of advice I can give you here about learning to trust yourself is Occam's razor. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but it's the concept that the simplest idea is often right. Too many times we complicate things, and we try and find all these complicated reasons why something will happen, and this will happen, that will happen, that. But really, most of the time, it's just the simplest, most obvious reason. Okay? So, let's move on. George Stephenson, the poor miner, dreamed of a locomotive engine that would revolutionize the traffic of the world. While working in the coal pits for 6 pence a day, or patching the clothes and mending the boots of his fellow workmen to earn a little money to attend a night school, and at the same time supporting his blind father, he continued to dream. People called him crazy. "His roaring engine will set the houses on fire with its sparks," everybody cried. "Smoke will pollute the air. Carriage makers and coachmen will starve for want of work." Now, I've included this quote for a few reasons. First of all, we need to understand that it's the dreamers that change the world. It's the Steve Jobs, the Bill Gates, the George Stephensons that change our world forever. They're not afraid to dream, and they see what the world could be. I mean, I can't imagine what it must have been like for George Stephenson back then, in his position, to dream that big. I mean, people must have been thinking, this guy's off his rocker, because it's never going to happen. But just look what did. One man's dream, and he made it reality. So never be afraid to dream. A lot of people like to step on other people's dreams, saying that it won't work, it can never happen. It can't happen for them. They don't know how to do it. But if you can find a way, good for you. It's good to have dreams, and never let anyone tell you any different. If you want to watch a movie about this concept, you should watch In Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith. There's a few quotes in that movie that really hit home. This man, he just kept trying, and he told his son to never let anyone tell you you can't be what you want to be. Never let anyone, including him, that's what he says to his son. You should be allowed to dream, and dream big, because those are the dreams that excite people. You get investments, you get excitement, you get community involved, you get everything. That's what changes the world. Okay, that's the first reason I included the quote. The second reason I've included this quote is because you have to understand most people are afraid of change. Look at this. They were afraid that their houses would go up in smoke, and that the pollution would kill people, and everyone would be out of work. Oh, just the opposite. I mean, there were so many jobs. It revolutionized America. All because of one man's dream. Is it easy? No. Are there days where you wonder, what are you going to do? Yes. Is it a struggle? Sure. But is it worth it? If you get it, yes, it is. All it takes is one success, and people will forget all those times where you didn't make it happen. Just ask Thomas Edison. You know, he failed to make the light bulb 9,000 times. 9,999 times or so. But the 10,000th time he got it right. And with that, everything changed. Okay. So, the next quote on my list. The dreaming faculty, like every other faculty, may be abused. A great many people do nothing but dream. They spend all their energies in building air castles, which they never try to make real. They live in an unnatural, delusive, theoretical atmosphere until the faculties become paralyzed from inaction. It is a splendid thing to dream when you have the grit and tenacity of purpose and the resolution to match your dreams with realities. But dreaming without effort, wishing without putting forth exertion to realize the wish, undermines the character. Okay, now I just went over this, but you can't just dream. You've got to take action. It's as simple as that. You've got to get those dreams out of your head and into the world. Success or failure, it makes little difference, because by putting it out into the world, you can learn what works and what doesn't. You can refine your product. You can refine your idea and realize, I didn't think of that before. I see what's wrong. I've got to do this now. I've got to do that. And is it painful for that to happen? Yes. A lot of people give up. Most people convince themselves not to do something before they've even tried. They have an idea in their head and they go, no, it's not going to work, and they walk away. There are other people who dream and constantly dream, but they never do anything with it. They've got all these great ideas of what they're going to do and what they're going to write and what they're going to accomplish. And guess what? They never do. Personally, I've met so many people, and I'm sure you have too, that want to achieve something. They want to write a book. They want to make a movie. They want to travel overseas. They want to master magic. There's so many things that they want to do. And they're always talking about what they're going to do. But it never changes from going to have done. It's always in the future that one day they're going to get around to it. One day they'll start. Well, guess what? Time is our most valuable commodity. And by waiting, we're wasting our most valuable commodity. Get started today. The best exercise program started tomorrow is less effective than an okay exercise program started today. Because tomorrow means you're letting yourself off the hook. You're saying, well, I'll get to it tomorrow. I'll get to it when I have some time. I'll get to it when my children go to sleep. I'll get to it when my children grow up. I'll get to it when my children get married. There's always an excuse that we give ourselves not to do something. But that's not the way things work. If you really are serious about achieving anything, get started. Okay, so this is the next quote on my list. There is enough latent force in a Maximite torpedo shell to tear a warship to pieces. But the amount of force or explosive power in one of these terrific engines of destruction could never be ascertained by any ordinary concussion. Children could play with it for years, pound on it, roll it about, and do all sorts of things with it. The shell might be shot through the walls of an ordinary building without arousing its terrible dynamic energy. It must be fired from a cannon with terrific force through a foot or so of steel plate armor before it meets with resistance great enough to evoke its mighty explosive power. Every man is a stranger to his greatest strength, his mightiest power,
until the test of a great responsibility, a critical emergency, or a supreme crisis in his life calls it out. Personally, I've never heard of a Maximite torpedo shell, and it's probably pretty old. But the quote is powerful because there's a lot of times in life when people have an ability within them and they don't know they have it. And it takes some sort of event, some crisis, some real test of will to reveal it. Most of us just don't know how we will react in a crisis. Personally, I didn't know myself until a few years ago, when I found myself fighting for my life, really, in the tsunami of 2004. At that time, I realized just who I was. I was a person who was calm under pressure. I was organized. Now, I didn't know I had that in me. Despite what many of my friends say about me, I'm actually a person who prefers to follow someone. I prefer to follow a great leader into battle. The problem is that many times in life we follow people that aren't great leaders and that they're actually leading us into danger. At those times, I get concerned because I can see what's going to go wrong, and I'm afraid that what will happen is that if we follow this path, the results are obvious, and guess who's going to get the blame? Me. Even though it's not my idea or my choice or my plan, I'm going to be the one who gets the boot. The boss is going to blame it on myself or other people around me, and that's not cool. At those times, I feel, well, I have to stand up and say something. I have to take responsibility. And if I go down in flames, at least it was on my watch. But I can't go down in flames for something I didn't do. So, responsibility is something that we all should accept, because the way to bring out the reserve in a man is to pile responsibility upon him. If there is anything in him, this will reveal it. In business, you want to surround yourself with the best people you can find. And you need to know that you can trust the people around you. And most of the time, we don't really know just how capable people are. We don't even know ourselves just what we're capable of. However, in times of crisis, our true characters are revealed. There are people who think quickly on their feet. There are people who thrive in those situations. And there are those people who will wilt. You don't want the wilters. You want to surround yourself with people who you know you can trust in any situation. Which is why I've included my next quote. Never shrink from anything which will give you more discipline, better training, and enlarged experience. No matter how distasteful, force yourself into it. There is nothing like responsibility for developing ability. We don't know ourselves just what we're capable of. So by accepting challenges in business and in life, we can find out what we're made of. And most of the time, we're actually much more capable than we think we are. Most of us hide from responsibility. Most of us hide from being the leader. But by doing so, we never find out if we have that within us. And as such, you end up having to put your trust in the other people around you. Now, it's possible you might not have that in you. But oftentimes, the greatest generals in history didn't know they had it in them. The war came and they were thrust into the positions. And it was either live or die. They chose to live. Now, I'm not saying go to war, but I'm saying in life, in business, you've got to be willing to challenge yourself and push yourself harder. We're not as weak as we think we are. I think a great example of this is children. Children are so capable of doing so much, but so many parents never push their kids to do it. They say, okay, do what you want. Okay, just don't worry about it. Forget about it. If you don't like it, you can just give up. No, that's what they want. They want to get out of doing it. They're testing you as a parent. Are you going to wilt and say, okay, whatever? Or are you going to stand up and say, no, do it again, try again? There's a fine balance between being strict and being loving. You can't be too strict that you just say, I'm never going to accept anything less than perfection. That's ridiculous. But you can't just let them go the first sign of trouble. They've got to pick themselves back up again and try. Let me give you a story from my own life. My son was 5 years old, and I decided that it was time for me to teach him how to ride a bike. Well, I'm known to be pretty strict as a teacher. I'm a loving, caring teacher, but I am very strict because I expect a lot of the people who study with me in whatever capacity. So anyway, I took my son out, and it'd been the third day, and I thought, hey, you're kind of getting it. You can ride your bike to the end of the street. But he kept losing control of the bike. And I said, do it again. Do it again. And he had tears in his eyes because he felt he couldn't do it. And I said, do it again. Finally, he did it. He got to the end of the street. And I said, wow, great job. Great work. You did it. See, I knew you could do it. And he goes, Daddy, are you proud of me? And I said to him, son, I'm always proud of you. Every day I'm proud of you. But I'm not proud that you achieved this. I'm happy for you. It's a great job. What I'm most proud of is that you didn't give up. That's where the real growth is. The final goal is just that, the goal. But all the effort, that's the hard part. Well, just like children, we need to be pushed. As we get older, we think, I know what I can do and what I can't do. But we haven't had that many opportunities in life. As we get older, there are certain things in our lives that traumatize us, and they prevent our real growth. We might be able to do it, but we're just too afraid to try because of what somebody said one day, or what happened one day. But that's in the past. We're a better person today. We're older, we're stronger, we're wiser. Give it another shot. Just because somebody said I couldn't do it back then doesn't mean I can't do it now. Let me give it a shot. So never be afraid to accept responsibility. It will show you just what you're made of and what you are capable of. It's the fastest way to learn about yourself. So, my next quote is, before water generates steam, it must register 212 degrees of heat. 200 degrees will not do it. 210 will not do it. The water must boil before it will generate enough steam to move an engine, to run a train. Lukewarm water will not run anything. A great many people are trying to move their life trains with lukewarm water, or water that is almost boiling. And they are wondering why they are stalled, why they cannot get ahead. They are trying to run a boiler with 200 or 210 degrees of heat, and they cannot understand why they do not get anywhere. Lukewarmness in his work stands in the same relation to a man's achievement as lukewarm water does to the locomotive boiler. No man can hope to accomplish anything great in this world until he throws his whole soul, flings the force of his whole life into it. Most people in life are just going through the motions. They're living life, but they're not living the life they really want. Their dreams have been put in a drawer and locked away. They're just going to work, getting their money, coming home, enjoying the weekend, and rinse and repeat each and every week. They've long forgotten what they really want to achieve in life. And for some people, that's okay. That's the way they want to live their life, that's fine. But if you want to accomplish anything great, you must give it 100%, not 50%, not 80%. You've got to put your heart and soul into it. And people can feel when you're passionate about something. Passion excites people. Passion drives people. Passion inspires people. Listen to all the greatest orators of our time. They are passionate about what they talk about. Well, the dreamers who change the world, they're passionate too. They're passionate about achieving something. And they give it all they've got. Is it easy? No. For years sometimes they're stuck in rooms thinking and planning and coding and doing all that stuff. Just ask Mark Zuckerberg. 5 years of hard work with nothing really to show for it. And then he became a billionaire. That's a pretty good investment of time. I would give that 5 years of my life to be a billionaire. Wouldn't you? Now, I'm not saying that you can be the next Zuckerberg. I'm saying you can be the next you. What is it you want to accomplish with your life? If you're listening to this webinar today, then you want something more out of life. Most people couldn't be bothered to listen to this kind of stuff. Why do I know this? Because I was just like them. I was the kind of guy who said, hey, I'm smart enough. I don't need any more. I went to a good school, a good university. I've done enough. But then something changed and I realized I wanted more out of life. And I started studying. I started studying finance and success and time management and marketing and went, hey, this is great stuff. I started applying it to my life and my life started to change and I went, this is awesome. I want to share this stuff with other people. And so I did. That's why I'm here today. And I hope you understand that I'm passionate about what I do, about sharing ideas with people. I am passionate about it. It's what I love. I love helping people live better lives. It doesn't just have to be about success. It can be about introducing a good movie to them, or helping them get through some trouble in their life, or helping them get some sort of qualification in their life. Whatever it is, seeing them grow and change and be better, that excites me. That's what gets me up every day. And I'm lucky because I have my son now and I get to see him grow. But I want to do more than that. I want to help people all over the world because I just love it. So if you're here today, then I hope you want to do it too, whatever that it is. Whether it's to build a new app or a new product or to build a new school or a hospital, whatever it is, great, go for it. Now do some studying, do some planning before you do it, otherwise you'll run into trouble, but give it everything you've got. You don't want to leave this world thinking, I wish I'd done that. Regret is something so many people have when they get older, that they never did more when they were younger. Take advantage of the time that we have. Okay, next quote on my list. A name is worth everything until it is questioned. But when suspicion clings to it, it is worth nothing. There is nothing in this world that will take the place of character. There is no policy in the world, to say nothing of the right or wrong of it, that compares with honesty and square dealing. In spite of, or because of, all the crookedness and dishonesty that is being uncovered, of all the scoundrels that are being unmasked, integrity is the biggest word in the business world today. There never was a time in all history when it was so big, and it is growing bigger. There never was a time when character meant so much in business, when it stood for so much everywhere as it does today. Okay, now I've got a question for you. What do you think stands out most about this quote? Is it about honesty, integrity, your name? Well, for me, what stands out most about this quote is that it was written over 100 years ago. Integrity is the biggest word in the business world today. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine how important that is today then? I mean, we have people lying through their teeth. Today we have politicians and bankers and athletes, and they're on TV, and they're lying. I mean, are those the people we want? Is that the kind of world we want to live in, where the people we look up to are liars? For me, my name means something. When I say I'll do something, I mean it. It's my word. I believe that that has value, that people can trust me, that when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. There are a lot of people out there that don't believe that, that say whatever makes other people happy, that find excuses for everything. Those aren't the people we want to work with. We want to work with people with integrity, that will own up to their mistakes. We want people that will try hard and accept when they're wrong. We want people that we can trust. And if you can't trust them, you've got nothing. They could have incredible talent, but if you can't trust them, what are you going to do with them? They might take your job. They might destroy your business. They might take your clients to another business because you can't trust them. You don't want people like that in your organization. You don't want to work with people like that. Believe me, I know. Speaking from experience, I've worked with a few people who their name meant nothing to them. Their signature on a piece of paper meant nothing to them. Their word meant nothing to them. They said they would do something and they didn't. And then they come up with every reason why they couldn't do it. And none of it was their fault. It was always this person and that person, or the weather, or taxes, or money, or the car, whatever. It was never their fault. Well, guess what? You can't work with people like that, because they're going to throw you under the bus the first chance they get. So 100 years ago, this was important. Today, it's that much more important. Your name means something. Keep it clean. Do good. Don't lie to people. You can choose your words carefully, but be careful when you give your word or you promise something, because it means something to other people, even if it doesn't mean something to you. The problem is you let people down and they rely on that you gave your word that you would do it. They go through their day with the assumption that you are going to do your part. So they're doing their part. They're able to focus more energy on their part because they know you're going to do your part. But if you don't do your part, well, they're screwed. Is that what you want to be, a person who screws other people over? Is that what you want to be remembered for, someone who no one trusts? Real happiness is not a fluttering flyaway on reality. It is not superficial. It does not live in things. It does not depend upon money. It inheres in character, in personality. It consists in facing life the right way, and no one who faces it the wrong way, no matter how much money he may have, can ever be happy. The trouble with many of the men who went down in the panic was that they put the emphasis upon the wrong thing. I included this quote because you have to understand that happiness and money do not go hand in hand. You can be happy but poor. You can be rich but sad. That being said, having money is easier than not having money. But you choose how happy you want to be. And one of the important things to be happy is knowing that you're doing the right thing. There are a lot of people who put money before friendship. I've seen it happen. Well, guess what? They've lost that friend. Now, their money can come and go, but friends are truly hard to find. Now, I like money. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for earning money and earning as much money as you can. But what always comes first should be your family, your health, your friends, because money will come and go in your life. Now, I remember a famous quote, and I'm not going to get this right exactly, but it goes something like this. Be careful who you step on your way up, because you'll be passing them on your way down. Money comes and goes into our lives.
But money shouldn't be the determining factor of how happy we are. Yes, I know it sucks when you don't have money. Trust me, I know. Is it stressful? Yes. But happiness is what we make of it. You can still enjoy life on a very basic salary. You don't need much money to be happy. In fact, some of the best memories I've had were when I didn't have much money. Events that didn't cost much. There's something great about not having to spend all this money for an experience. Now, don't get me wrong, I love a good spa treatment at a nice hotel. That was also one of my greatest experiences in my life. But it doesn't just have to be about money. In fact, it's never really about the money. It's about the people in your life. But the thing is that a lot of people, a lot of men, it says here, but men and women, choose to put money first in their life. And by doing so, they run the risk of losing a lot of friends in the process. And it's possible that their day in the sun will end one day, and they'll need their friends. But who will help them? You want to live your life knowing you're doing good in the right way. That way you get a good night's sleep. And there are some people who put money up on a mantle. They believe that's the main goal. No, it's not. Money is just a tool with which we can do so much. We can build hospitals, we can help people, we can have great spa treatments and travel overseas. Money is great. But it's only part of the equation. And money will come and go into our lives. But the people, our friends, are the people we need to keep in it. But life is more than just money. It's about people. It's about relationships. It's about love. It's about happiness. It's about fun. And you don't need money to have a lot of fun. I look at kids who play in the park for 3 hours with balls and slides and swings and merry-go-rounds, and they love it all. It costs them nothing, but it's so much fun. By choosing money first, you're forsaking your friends and your relationships. And in the end, it doesn't end well. Okay, the next quote from He Can Who Thinks He Can. The idea that we can practice wrong in our vocations, in our dealings with men, or in our pleasures, and then periodically seek forgiveness in our prayers, or through our churches. The idea that a man can do wrong and be forgiven without remedying the wrong, or without forsaking the sin, has done more harm than almost any other thing in civilization. A clear conscience, a clean life, the true elimination of selfishness, jealousy, envy, and hatred are necessary to all high enjoyment. We all make mistakes. We accept that. That's a given. But when dealing with people, we've got to understand that we've got to do more to fix the situation. Let me give you an example. Let's say I go over to my friend's house and I knock over their vase and it cracks. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry about that. I'll buy you a new one. Easy peasy, no problem. All is forgiven. However, let's say I'm angry at someone and I start shouting at them. You know, I can't believe you didn't do this, and you SO, and I can't believe I blah, blah, blah. And you're shouting at them just constantly. And then you realize, oh, they didn't do it. It's my fault. And you go, sorry. And then you walk away. Guess what? That's not how it works. If you berated someone for 30 minutes, insulting them, calling them names, and then think that a sorry that takes literally under a second to say
will make up for what you just did, you are sadly mistaken. Whatever you've done is in the past. You cannot change it. I get that. But you've got to show people that you are truly sorry for what you did, the mistakes you made. You've got to do more than is expected. A vase can be replaced by a new vase. A broken heart, a hurt feeling cannot be fixed by a few simple words. You must show that you know how much you hurt them. That you're going to make it up to them. That you're going to do everything in your power to right the wrong. The wrong being what you have done. Okay? Too many people think that by simply going to church or saying a few words that they can wash themselves clean of their mistakes. It's not that easy, especially when you deal with people and their emotions. We can really hurt people by saying some hurtful things. In order to make up for that, we have got to go way big. Okay, the next quote. Recently, a young man was asked why he did not work. I do not have to, he said. Do not have to has ruined more young men than almost anything else. The fact is, nature has never made any provision for the idle man. Vigorous activity is the law of life. It is the saving grace, the only thing that can keep a human being from retrograding. Activity along the lines of one's highest ambition is the normal state of man, and he who tries to evade it pays the penalty in deterioration of faculty, in paralysis of efficiency. Do not flatter yourself that you can be really happy unless you are useful. Happiness and usefulness were born twins. To separate them is fatal. I've asked quite a few people over the years what they would do if they were given $1 million. And the most common answer I hear is that they'd quit their job and just relax, just enjoy their life. In essence, they are very much like this young man here, the person who says, I do not have to. Well, great. But let me tell you about taking breaks and just relaxing and doing nothing. It makes us dumb. There's only so much relaxing we can do before we kind of go, well, I got to do something now. Most of the time, we love our relaxation because we've worked so hard. But if you take out that hard work and just give people free time, they're bored. Quite quickly, actually. And not only that, but people get dumb quick. If you have someone, I don't care how good they are at what they do, but if you have them take a break for any length of period, I don't care how good you are at what it is you do. If you take any long break, you will lose a step. And all you have to do is look at Michael Jordan to prove this. Back in the 90s, he was at the top of his game. He just won 3 championships in a row, and he retired. He was going to pursue his father's dream of him being a baseball player. That's great. Wonderful. Go after your dreams. There was only one small problem. He wasn't any good. So after 2 years of a failed attempt at baseball, he came back to the sport that he was meant for. But I remember a story that when he first came back, his locker was being used by another player on the team. And so he said to him, hey, I'm back now. You got to give me a locker. And the guy says, no, that's my locker. So Michael Jordan said, okay, I'll play you for it. Now, this is Michael Jordan, the #1 basketball player probably ever. Well, they played. He got destroyed. Michael Jordan got annihilated by some guy I don't even remember the name of. Why? Because for 2 years, he hadn't been practicing. You can't just come back after any extended period of time and think you're going to be as good as you were before. You're rusty. You've lost a step. You've forgotten things. You need a refresher course. To really, in life, the best thing you can do is not take a break. Whatever it is you want to be good at, keep going. I used to study magic. Well, guess what? I studied every day, 2 hours a day for a year and a half. Almost every day without fail. That was some serious studying. And guess what? I improved. Then I stopped. And guess what? Not as good today. So simple. So I'm going to ask you, what do you want? What do you want? If you know what you want, go for it. But don't think you can just take a break and expect to come back as good as you were before. A healthy lifestyle is just that, a lifestyle. It's a life decision to live your life a certain way. You can't diet for 2 weeks, then go back to your old ways, then diet again and go back to your old ways. It doesn't work that way. Can it be done? Yes. Is it hard? Extremely. It's much easier just to work really hard for a short period of time and then maintain it. I remember hearing about a famous boxer. It could have been Holyfield. And somebody asked him, so how do you train for a fight? And he said, well, I train really hard for 3 months before my fight. And then after that, I just do a little bit every day. Words worth remembering. And the second part of this is that happiness and usefulness go together. When we go to work and people say, great job, when we're complimented for our hard work and our effort, we appreciate it and we feel happy. We feel needed. We feel wanted. Parents want to hear that they're appreciated by their kids. They prepare dinner or play games with them, and kids say, I love you, Mommy. Thanks so much for playing with me. Mommy, that was a delicious dinner. That's what makes people happy. It's not the cooking dinner or the playing of the game usually, but hearing that we are appreciated. We need that in our life. So happiness and usefulness go together. Okay, next quote. No human being ever yet made a success trying to be somebody else, even if that person was a success. Success cannot be copied, cannot be successfully imitated. It is an original force, an individual creation. Every man will be a failure just in proportion as he gets away from himself and tries to be somebody else and to express somebody else instead of himself. Power comes from within or from nowhere. Be yourself. Listen to the voice within. Okay. Now, in my field of personal development, Tony Robbins is the biggest name in the industry. And he's been that way for 20 years. Now, there have been lots of other people who've tried to copy him. They've tried to do what he does, but no one does Tony like Tony. Tony's unique. You might have all the skills and knowledge that he has, but you don't present it in the same way, with the same passion, with the same drive. And therefore you don't get the same results. People fail trying to be something they're not. This is what happens to so many children who parents force them to do something that they don't want to be. I know some children whose parents were doctors and they wanted their daughter to be a doctor. There was only one minor problem. She didn't want to be a doctor. She had no interest in becoming a doctor. And so she has to make a choice. Is she going to follow her parents' desire, her parents' wishes? Or is she going to follow her own dreams? It's a tough decision to make. But I guarantee happiness comes from doing what you want to do, not what somebody else wants you to do. People don't want fakes. We want the originals. If you travel overseas, you see lots of fake Louis Vuitton and Gucci and Chanel bags. We don't want that. People can tell it's not the real thing. It's fake. We want the original. The same is true when it comes to success. You can be a success at nearly anything by being yourself. There are people out there who are obnoxious and loud, and they've made millions of dollars doing that. There are people who are quiet and shy, and guess what? They've made millions of dollars from doing that as well. Society asks us to conform, to follow rules, but what we truly want is an individual. We want something original. That's what we want. Those are the special people in life, the individuals who no one else can copy. They have a uniqueness about them. A passion, a desire, a skill, something that other people don't have. Maybe it's their vision. Maybe it's their ability to move people. Maybe it's their oratory skills. Maybe it's their communication ability. Maybe it's their choice of words. Maybe it's their passion. Maybe it's their vision. I don't know, but whatever it is what will set you apart from everyone else out there. Your competition will not be able to copy you. They can copy any products you create. They can copy any products you may create. But they can't be the original. Okay, so far we've talked about things that we can do. This quote's a little bit different because it talks about the people that you may encounter on your journey to success. They cannot see any reason for changing. They must have a precedent for everything or they reject it. They cannot appreciate a new idea or a new way of doing things. They think there must be something the matter with it if it has not been used before. They have a peculiar love for the old. The antique appeals to them. They think the value of things lies in their age. These people with hidebound intellects stand in the way of progress. Every town has these precedent men, in the same old-sized stores, with the same old out-of-date show windows, the same methods of displaying goods, the same old cumbersome systems in the counting room. They are progress-proof. New ideas frighten them. Basically, when we get right down to it, there are two groups of people when it comes to progress. There are those people who embrace it, and there are those people who resist it. It's the second group of people that we need to be careful of because they can be obstacles to our own success. The reason is they don't see what the world will be like. They want to keep things the way they are. They work, so why bother changing? Well, that's okay. And years ago, I suppose if you had a good idea and it worked, you didn't really have to worry for many, many years. Today, that's just not the way it is anymore. If you're not willing to change, you are going to get slaughtered in time. And that's going to happen to all big businesses. And I don't care how big your business is, you can go the way of the dodo. If you're not willing to embrace what is happening around you. The big companies that embraced social media and embraced the internet have done very well in the past 20 years. The companies that didn't fell behind. They lost the step. Let me give you an example of a story of how one company came out of left field and really dominated their market. The company I'm talking about is Google. Now, if you're old enough, you might remember that Yahoo used to have a little search box, and underneath it said, "Powered by Google." Okay. Now, what many people don't realize is that Google actually tried to get bought out. Now, what many people might not realize is that Google actually went to Yahoo to get bought out. They asked for a few $1 million, if I'm not mistaken. And Yahoo said, "We'll pass. We're going to make our own." Okay. So Google said, "Fine. We'll do it our own way." And guess what? They dominated search. Dominated it. And all the money started going there. You see, Yahoo had been getting so much money from people paying to get #1 ranking on their site. They had to pay in those old days. You had to pay for ranking. Therefore, small businesses couldn't compete with big businesses. And Google said, "No, that's not what we're going to do. People want to find useful information. They don't want to get just paid information. They want to get useful information. So we will create an algorithm that searches for the best information possible." And Google has gone on to do so much. They're no longer just a search engine. I mean, look, they've got Google Earth, Google Maps, they've got Android Chromebook. They've got their free Office online. Everything. All from one idea of search. Now, Yahoo didn't want to change. They liked the old model of you pay me tons of money and we advertise for you. Great, worked for them. Google said, no, we're going to do it a different way. We're going to do it the right way. And guess what? The right way is what people wanted. A lot of businesses and people are afraid of change because they're happy with the status quo. They're happy with the way things are right now. And they want the world to just freeze and say, just keep bringing me your money. Keep trusting us. But the world doesn't stand still. The world keeps moving and changing. And unless we change with it, we can get destroyed. Now you're going to come across these people who will not see the value of your idea. Now they'll share some valuable insights. But if you truly believe this is what you want to do, I say go for it. But as I said earlier, don't go all in. Work part-time on your dream while you work full-time on your job. And then when you start making money from your dream, then you give up on your job or you cut back on your job, and then you go and you follow your dream full-time. That's what you got to do. That's the best and safest way to go after what you really want in life, in my opinion. And you'll find out quickly, as I said before, if you really want it. Are you really willing to work that hard? Are you really willing to put in the time and the effort that it takes? You'll find out. Okay, I've talked a lot about originality. And I don't want to keep harping on this, but I've got one more quote on this topic because a lot of people seem to make this mistake as well. What they do is they find somebody that they respect and admire and they try to be just like them, their hero. Well, remember this quote. Do not imitate even your heroes. Scores of young clergymen attempted to make their reputations by imitating Beecher. They copied his voice and conversation and imitated his gestures and his habits. But they fell as far short of the great man's power as the chromo falls short of the masterpiece. Where are those hundreds of imitators now? Not one of them has ever made any stir in the world. The world puts its ban upon all imitations. It despises a man who tags onto somebody else, leans, or imitates. He is always classed as a weakling, without force, power, or individuality. We all have people that we look up to. If you're a tennis player, you look up to Federer or Nadal. If you're a basketball player, you look up to Michael Jordan. If you're an actor, maybe Tom Hanks. If you're a real estate mogul, you look up to Donald Trump. We all have someone we look up to, but we are not them. We will never be them. We can act like them. We can do everything that they do, but we will not be them. And by being a copy of someone else, we become weaker. We lose our individuality, our trueness, our inner self. Be yourself, because that is the best you can be. Study from those people. Learn what they did. And then put your own swing on things. I love Jim Rohn. I love Tony Robbins. But I'm not them. I'm me. I have my own stories, my own experiences in life that make me very different from them. So when I give a speech or I talk to people and try to help people, I can only give it to them from my perspective. I sometimes borrow their stories and share with them what they learned because I've never been in that situation, maybe. But when I can see how to help someone through my own words, that's what I do. It's okay to borrow great quotes. It's okay to borrow ideas, but make them your own. Okay? Never forget this. Don't be somebody else. Be the very best you can be by studying from these people, the people you respect, the best names in the industry. Learn from them, talk to them, study from them, but be yourself. Okay, now the reason for this next quote is that there are a lot of people that I know
that don't like studying things they're not interested in. And I get it. Heck, that was me. However, I've come to realize that if you want to be successful, you can never overlook a good, solid business foundation. So let me read the quote and then I'll come back to it. For the sake of your home, for the protection of your hard earnings, for your peace of mind, your self-respect, your self-confidence, whatever else you do, do not neglect a good, solid business training, and get it as early in life as possible. It will save you from many a fall, from 1,000 embarrassments, and perhaps from the humiliation of being compelled to face your wife and children and confess that you have been a failure. It may spare you the mortification of having to move from a good home to a poor one, of seeing your property slip out of your hands, and of having to acknowledge your weakness and your lack of foresight and thoughtfulness. Or it may prevent your being made the dupe of sharpers. Many men who once had good stores of their own are working as clerks, floor workers, or superintendents of departments in other people's stores just because they risked and lost everything in some venture. So if you're serious about success, you're going to have to build a business. I don't care if it's an online business, it's a brick and mortar business, you're building a business. You're selling a product or a service, or you're selling something. Okay, so you need to know how to protect yourself. You need to know how to build it. You need to know how to hire people. You need to know how to manage things. If you are the owner of your business, you're going to need to know this. Now you can learn by trial and error. That's fine. But it may be painful and it might hurt along the way. You don't really have to go in blind. Now you can study and train and prepare before you do it. And as I said, work part-time. Don't risk it all. You see here in the second part of this quote, it says, they risked and lost everything. One thing you also have to understand about a solid business foundation is you also need to understand finance. That means numbers, accounting, and investing. Now these words might scare people. Investing, oh my God, I don't know anything and I don't want to invest. It's scary. I just want to put my money in the bank and be safe. Okay, go ask the people of Cyprus how that worked out for them. You need to take a certain amount of your savings, 10%, 5%, 20%, and do something with it. Don't just put it only back in your business. Put some money back into your business, of course, but then take a small amount and see what you can do with it. Invest in the success of other people's businesses through stocks or just directly giving people you know cash. And of course, getting a signed contract. Keyword, signed, contract. The thing is, when you take some of that money and invest it in something, I don't care what it is, you suddenly have an interest in that thing. You want to see it succeed. So you'll read up about it. You'll find out more about it. You'll study it. You'll think and listen and research and do all those good things. And it will make you better, whether that money helps you become rich or if you lose it all, you still will have learned a lot from that investment. That's why I took some of my money and invested in the stock market. I proceeded to lose about 70% of it. Great. Ouch. Great lessons. I learned a lot of things, and it's not yet over. I haven't sold the stock, and I still believe in why I bought it. So let's see what happens in the next few years. You see, if you have your own business and it's making you money, it's okay if a little of the money you save, a little, keyword there, a little of your money that you save is going into another project. It's maybe rolling the dice, but so what? Give it a shot. You want to make sure you've invested in a few different things and not just one business, because things change. Let's say your business disappears, but your stocks have made you rich. Great, no big deal. See, businesses can go down for any number of reasons. Sometimes it's a change of environment. Sometimes it's a lack of change. Sometimes it's the lack of foresight of the leader. Sometimes it's the leader's discretions. Sometimes it's the changing environment. Whatever it is, a business can go down for many reasons. So can stocks. In today's world, everything is a risk. You have to understand that. No matter how safe something seems, there is always a possibility to lose money. So I'm saying learn and study quick.
And by losing early on, it makes you stronger and better and prepares you for later on in life. It does not matter how honest people are, they may forget. And it is so easy for misunderstandings to arise that it is never safe to leave anything of importance to a mere oral statement. Reduce it to writing. It costs little in time or money, and when all parties are agreed, that is the best time to formulate the agreements in exact terms. This will often save lawsuits, bitterness, and alienation. How many friendships have been broken because understandings were not put in writing? Oh my gosh, if there's anything that I could take from this book and say, you gotta remember it, this would probably be it, especially if you're going into business with a partner. This is crucial. Partners are often our friends, and friendship is a wonderful thing, but business is not friendship, and businesses need to be run like a business. Now that's not to say you don't trust your friend. It's to say that, hey, if things go wrong, we have it in writing and it's all sorted out. There's no misunderstandings. There's no confusion. We are very clear what each party will do and what must be done. I'm speaking from experience here. I made this mistake. I knew better. In fact, I asked for a contract. I even sent a contract to my partner. Said, could you sign it? He kept giving me excuse after excuse why he couldn't do it, why he'd forgotten, or that he didn't have the time. It's a signature on a piece of paper. But I found out the reason why he wasn't willing to sign it later, and that was he wasn't willing to keep his word. He wanted to adjust things that benefited him constantly. I was constantly getting screwed out of deals in my own business. Can you believe that? So don't let this be you. Now this happened 100 years ago. It happened 7 years ago to me. And it will happen in the future time and time again, simply because friends think, hey, a handshake is good enough. Or he's my friend, I trust him. You may trust him as a friend, but not as a business partner. It's not the same thing, and you will learn the hard way if you do not follow this advice. I cannot emphasize this enough. Okay, on to our next quote. It is infinitely harder to save money and to invest it wisely than to make it. And if even the most practical men who have had a long training in scientific business methods, find it a difficult thing to hold on to money after they make it, what is likely to happen to people who have practically no training in business methods? This is a good question. Now, a lot of people think it's easy to make money. Well, it is. You work. You earn money. Saving it is the next step. Being able to save some of the money that you earn is a little harder. But it's still not very difficult. You just say, hey, I'm going to make sure I only spend within this range, and then the rest goes into my bank. Great. But yet, many people seem to go bankrupt with this simple concept of working and earning and saving. Why is that? Well, quite simply, people after a while, after saving up a certain amount of money, feel they can splurge a little. You know, I think I'm going to buy myself that new car. I've always wanted to have a Mercedes, and yeah, I deserve it. I've saved enough money, I can use it. Well, guess what? As soon as you've used it, you no longer have it, right? You've got to understand that. Once you've used it, it's gone. There are other people who get caught up in excitement. There's this new venture where if you just invest a small amount of money, a measly $5,000, you'll be able to make millions. Woo, really? Oh yeah, been there, done that. Guess what? Doesn't work that way. Very, very rarely does that happen. In fact, more commonly what happens is you invest and the money goes bye-bye, and somehow some people get very rich, but you don't end up with anything. As I said earlier, you need to take a small amount of your money that you have saved and invest it. Not all of your savings. Let me say that again. Not all of your savings. Some, a small percentage of your savings, and try investing it in something. Now, you might not make anything. In fact, more likely than not, you'll probably lose it all. So what? You gave it a shot. And that's what we need to do in life. Give it a shot. You've got your job. You've got your dream. You've got investments. You've got savings. That's how I break down things. Your job is what keeps the lights on. Your dream is what keeps your passion and your drive going. Your investments can maybe make you rich, maybe get lost along the way, but hopefully you learn something from them. And last but not least, you have your savings. They're there for a rainy day. If you're constantly working hard in your job while working on your dream part-time and taking a small amount of your money and investing it in stocks and funds, as well as saving some money as well, it doesn't get much better than that. Chances are you will succeed. I don't know which one of those will be the one that will really put you over the top. It might be something you did not expect, even though you've been working so hard on your business and your dream, and suddenly your stock just takes off by chance. You're like, oh my goodness. You can take that money and build whatever you want. You can take that money and build the business that you've always dreamed of. Or you can take that money and go on that trip that you've always wanted to take. After Alexander the Great had conquered the Persians, he became suddenly very ill. One of his generals sent him a letter saying that his attending physician had resolved to poison him. He read the letter without the slightest sign of emotion and put it under his pillow. When the physician came and prepared medicine, Alexander said he would not take it just then, but told him to put it where he could reach it, and at the same time gave him the letter from his general. Alexander raised himself on his elbow and watched the physician's face with the most searching scrutiny, looking into his very soul. But he did not see in it the slightest evidence of fear or guilt. He immediately reached for the medicine bottle and, without a word, drank its contents. The amazed physician asked him how he could do that after receiving such a letter. Alexander replied, "Because you are an honest man." Alexander was a remarkable student of human nature. He knew men and the motives which actuated them. He could read the human heart as an open book. The art of all arts for the leader is the ability to measure men, to weigh them, to size them up, to estimate their possibilities, to place them so as to call out their strength and eliminate their weakness. You see, a business is only going to be as successful as the people in it. Therefore, a leader's job must be to surround himself with the smartest people possible. The people that he can see have the potential to grow and to build this business into what he sees as the vision. And how do you do that? By getting to know people and what makes them tick. By being able to read people and understand them and what drives them. By asking the right questions to be able to understand them and see if they're a good fit for your business. It's not just about skills. It's about who they are. And skills you can test. Who they are takes time to figure out. You don't really get a true impression of people and who they are in the interview process. You get their best foot forward. They're showing you who they could be, but they not always are. They're showing themselves as who they could be, who they want to be, but really they may not be. So take the time to take a few psychology classes or study a few psychology books. Study negotiation, study marketing, because they're all related to the human psyche and how humans think and react to certain things. Armed with that knowledge, you get a much better read on people than without it. So we're getting close to the end. Okay, we're getting close to the end here. So just bear with me just a little bit longer, and then I'll wrap everything up and send you on your merry way. Just a little bit longer, okay, guys? Many a man has tried to justify his failure on the ground that he was doomed by the cards which fate dealt him, that he must pick them up and play the game, and that no effort, however great, on his part could materially change the result. But, my young friend, the fate that deals your cards is in the main your own resolution. You have the power within yourself to change the value of the cards which you say fate has dealt you. The game depends upon your training, upon the way you are disciplined to seize and use your opportunities, and upon your ability to put grit in the place of superior advantages. Now, a lot of people use their upbringing as a reason why they're not successful. Sometimes it's your parents, and sometimes it's the environment, your school, your teachers. Now, I get it. As a young child, you do not get a say in where you want to study. Your parents make that decision for you. And yes, part of your life depends on your parents. And going to a good school or a bad school will play a major part in your growth. However, this is what we have to understand, that after we graduate from high school, really, the rest is up to us. I've seen people with great educations amount to nothing. Now, the people who don't have a good education would say, well, if only I had a good education, that's what would make me successful. And yet, I know people with good educations who were not successful, who failed miserably, who've lost everything, despite having a good education. So, it's not that. Some people say, well, it was my parents. Well, true. Growing up, your parents might have instilled some bad thoughts in your head. You might have picked up some bad habits, but you're an adult now. Are you going to keep blaming them for the rest of your life? It's okay to blame them when you're young, but now you can choose your life. You don't have to follow what your parents say. You can move out. You can live your own life. You can do what you choose to do. Yes, it sucks that you weren't given the best education and that you were dealt a lousy card with maybe the parents that you had. But now it's up to you. In the book by Jack Canfield, The Success Principles, there are, I believe, 66 different principles. And number one is take responsibility. I don't remember any of the others, to be honest with you, although I love the book. But number one is take responsibility. As a mature individual, you have responsibility for your life. You can make your life anything you want it to be. If you start now, you could become a doctor. Unless you're maybe 80 years old. Because you won't make it in time, maybe. Sometimes our age or our height might prevent us from doing the things we really want to do. I get that. But outside of those things, pretty much anything is within the realm of possibility. You could become successful at nearly anything. You could become a professional photographer, diver, businessman, salesman, marketer, teacher. I don't care. You might say, well, I don't know how to do any of those things. Great. Pick up a book. Take a class. Get started now. Time is going to pass no matter what. And if you don't like the way your life is headed today, make a change. Start now. Forget about what was. The past is gone. Your upbringing and those things sucked. I get it. Now it's all on you. What are you going to do about it? Well, I don't have the money. Great. Go to the library and use their internet. Go to the library and borrow a book. What a novel idea. It doesn't cost money to learn. Well, I don't have the time. Sure you do. How much TV are you watching? How many hours are you spending doing your hobby right now? Cut an hour out of that and invest it in your future. I'm telling you, it is possible if you want it. There is nothing stopping you or me from doing anything we really want in life. The only thing that really stops us is us and our own fears. Now that brings us to our final quote from the masterpiece, He Can Who Thinks He Can. A tiny flaw sometimes cuts the value of an otherwise $1,000 diamond down to $50 or less. The defect is not noticeable to the average person. It is only the fatal magnifying glass that will detect it. And yet its presence is a perpetual menace to the commercial value of the stone. A great many human diamonds which, a little while ago, were thought to be flawless brilliance of the first water, and which dazzled the financial and social world, when the microscope of official scrutiny was turned upon them, were found to contain great ugly flaws. A United States senator 70 years of age was recently sentenced to serve a term in prison, besides paying a fine, for his connection with great land frauds. Still another senator and several representatives have been indicted for crooked work in connection with their exalted positions. Okay, now what amazes me about this quote the most is this was written 100 years ago. 100 years ago, and we had fraud and corruption in the government. What a surprise! Despite all the regulations and all the rules that they have today, we still have corruption and fraud in government. There are still many people in power who take advantage of their situation for themselves. There are always going to be people in power who take advantage of that power for themselves and not for the public. That is the sad part of our world. There will always be those people. And we need to do our best to fight those people, to stop them from corrupting our world. Now, we can't change people. People are always going to be who they are, and there will always be that small group of people who are not good. We need to do our best to find good people. When we're looking for people to build our business, when we're looking for employees to hire into our business, and when we're signing contracts to do business with other people, we want to do business with good people. And sometimes even the best people on the surface turn out not to be good. If you are building a business, chances are sooner or later you're going to come across one of these people, unfortunately. And you're going to suffer. Maybe emotionally, maybe physically, maybe financially, but there will be a toll. And we just have to keep on going because most people are good in nature. We shouldn't let a few rotten apples turn us off. Think about your spouse or your girlfriend or your boyfriend, the person you're with right now. How did you find them? Probably you met some people along the way and they turned out not to be the one. For whatever reason, maybe it was you, maybe it was them, whatever, but it didn't work out. You're gonna have that in business as well, but you don't give up just because something bad happened. You keep going. If you believe in yourself and you want to do it, keep going. Don't let those precedent men and the negative you find in life stop you from going after what you want. Now, I talked earlier about the problem with The Secret, in that it doesn't talk about how hard it is to achieve things in life, that we must put the effort into our dreams to make them reality. Well, that being said, I do wholeheartedly believe in the concept of the law of attraction. And if you do good, and you put good out into the world, good things will happen for you. If you do bad, it will come back and haunt you. You can make money the right way or the wrong way. Make it the right way. You'll sleep better, and you won't have to worry about anything. Moreover, people will feel your passion, your love, and doing good. People will get behind you. They will rally behind you if they believe in your vision. People don't rally around bad. They don't want to do that. In the end, good has more power than bad. Remember that. And so with that, I'm going to go into my little wrap up here. Just a few points, and we'll call it a day. Now, a few points to remember. Yes, you've been listening to me for 2 hours rattle on about success and how to achieve it. But if nothing else, I'd like you to remember these few points. First, This book was written in 1908. That means every quote I've given to you was written before that time. That's over 100 years ago. And yet, I've shown you just how relevant they are today. Don't be afraid of picking up some of those classics out there. Those old books that are in used bookstores that nobody wants anymore. Well, guess what? They may have incredible insights that you might not find anywhere else. Second point. The fundamentals of success are not new, despite what people say that they've got a new secret to success. The formula has been written about for thousands of years. The formula, in my opinion, is pretty simple. Vision plus hard work equals success. Doesn't always equal success, and you can still fail, but if you want to be successful, that's really the only way to do it, in my opinion. So when you're looking for success material, don't think you have to get the latest and greatest by Tony Robbins. Some of his best stuff was his early stuff. Some of the best stuff by Dan Kennedy was his early stuff. Some of the best Jim Rohn stuff was his early stuff. You don't have to get the newest and latest and greatest success tips unless you're doing social media. Then you need the latest and greatest stuff, I admit. But most ideas have been talked about for years, and they will give you an incredible foundation for success. Copywriting, marketing, all the greats are from about 50 or 60 years ago. All the great insights were created back then. The new guys just apply it to today's world. So learn from both. Learn from the new and from the old, and you will be amazed how powerful it is. You see, what worked then will work now, because despite the changes in our world, we are very much the same. We have the same drives, the same desires as people from centuries ago. They've wanted to live a good life, safe life, a healthy life, and to raise their children. That's what people wanted then. That's what people want today. It's not going to change. And the application of simple ideas can make a profound difference in how things turn out. These ideas today are simple. They're simple, but they take time to learn. They take time to practice. So, get started. Next, success is an inside game. Now, I get that the outside world plays a part. I get it. But it doesn't determine everything. We play a part. And therefore, number 2 on the screen, action and perseverance are key. There are thousands of examples of people who were born into tough environments, into tough situations, and yet they succeeded. Why? Because they applied the principles contained within this book and others, and they made it work. Next point, change is inevitable. How you react to that change is up to you. Things are going to happen in the world. We've got to accept that. Some things are out of our control. The weather, for one. We can't control it. However, we can build something to protect us from it. Therefore, rain will not affect us. So, change is going to happen. You've got to accept that. What you're going to do with that is up to you. Are you going to grow? Are you going to learn? Are you going to study? Or are you going to let change keep going? Or are you just going to sit there and pretend it's not happening and deny everything and just keep living in the 20th century? No. It's going to happen. What are you going to do about it? Next, be yourself, not a cheap copy. We like originals, not fakes. The magic is you. We each have a different set of skills, and we can add skills to improve ourselves. And with those skills, we can become special. At first, we might say, well, I'm nothing special. I don't have any special skills. At first, yes, maybe that's true. Maybe you weren't born with any special talents. I personally was pretty good at math, but I wasn't great. I wasn't amazing. I wasn't like a genius or anything. I met many people smarter than me in math. But I developed myself, and I created a uniqueness that I hope I'm sharing with you today. Next, the people you surround yourself with will have a big impact on how you turn out. People can push you up or hold you back. That's why it's so important to surround yourself with people who are going to push you forward. Negativity is contagious, but so is positivity. Get around positive people, around people who've done what you want to do, and learn from them. As I said earlier, you might not know them personally, but you can buy their books. You can try and contact them through Facebook. You can call their office. Now, these are my last tips. Next, dream big, but act strong. It's okay to dream, and dream as big as you can. Have a big vision. It excites people. It excites you. But you've got to put the effort behind it. And not just a little effort. I'm talking hard work. Together, you'll be unstoppable. Next, you might not have much control over your schools, but you have 100% control over your education. As I said earlier, you don't get to choose your schools when you're growing up. Your parents choose, and how much money they have will determine a lot, as well as where you are located. But once you are an adult, the rest is up to you. Next, education comes from many different sources. Don't just think education lies in the classroom. Education lies out there in the world every day. Talking to people is an education. Watching people is an education. Books, DVDs, audio lectures, seminars, events, they all are great sources of knowledge. In my opinion, some of the best knowledge you can get is not in school actually, but out there available for you if you're willing to look for it. And in my opinion, most of the best education does not come from school. School gives you the foundation upon which you can learn anything. But school is just the foundation. It's the start. What are you going to do with what you learned at school? That is a different question. Next, never stop learning. The world is changing faster than ever in human history. If you do not keep learning, you will get left behind. It's impossible to learn everything, but just keep an eye on what's changing, and if something starts to become popular, start learning about it. And last, in business, words are hollow. Get things in writing and watch what people do, not what they say. Now, I think this says it all. You've got to find people you can trust. And not just because they say nice things, but because they are nice people. I think the best quote I can end this with is, actions speak louder than words. Okay, I think that brings us to the end of the webinar. I hope you listen to this over and over again because these ideas are fundamentals. They're not going to change. They will be as relevant today as you listen to this as they will be in 20, 50, 100 years from now. Because they were relevant 100 years ago. So, go out there, live your life, and follow your dreams. And I wish you luck.